It's Spooky Swirl, and it's a double release day. That's right, over at patreon.com/Cinema Swirl. For the $5 OTP backers, we have released at the same time as this, Sweeney Todd Reverse Swirl. I've seen Sweeney Todd, Kevin hasn't seen Sweeney Todd, and by golly we talk about it, and there are some serious opinions. The only way to hear that episode is over on patreon.com/Cinema Swirl, plus at that $5 level you'll get instant access to over 30 episodes of Cinema Swirl, a show where Kevin and I review bad movies. You've probably heard me talking about it. So if you're after more of us talking about the work of Mr. Tim Burton, patreon.com/Cinema Swirl is the place to go. We even reviewed Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton one, a while back on Cinema Swirl, so hey. But that's enough of me, let's get spooky swirling.
Spooky Swirl! Come here to me. Let's go on a 4.5-hour drive. It's episode number 85, coming to you from the haunted petrol-filling motor services station of Hollywood, California, going through the spookily rebranded sausage rolls of movies that my OTP, Sam Chaplin, I'm Kevin by the way, hasn't seen.
Hello, hi, welcome to Spooky Swirl.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, yeah, I'm alright.
Yeah.
I'm not scared, mate, I'm a legend. Don't care.
Here we are, back once again at the most ghoulish time of year, which is the end of October traditionally is when we do this. Although I'm saying this now, and I'm saying this in the heart of spooky season. Yeah? Not the heart, the hearth. We've gathered around. Yeah, it's hot. We should do more horror movies, I think, generally speaking. And we should do more spooky movies. More so than the fact that today, for Spooky Swirl, we're doing a Tim Burton special.
Yes, we are. And you will remember that we did the film Halloween earlier in the year because we thought it'd be funny.
So if you are morally opposed to this being the Spooky Swirl this year, you can go back and check out Halloween, and you can listen to it now on Halloween.
Yes.
Or alternatively, behind the paywall over there on Patreon, there is we're doing a simul dump, which is when it's this new phrase that we're trying to get off the ground. It's kind of fun, light, kind of bouncy phrase. It's when two podcasts are released at the same time. It's a simul dump. And over on the Patreon, there is another Tim Burton movie. Yeah. But one of us gets overwhelmed with a sense of existential dread in a nightmare-like sitting. So it is pretty damn spooky in itself.
Ooh, very exciting stuff. So head on over. No, I'm getting too pluggy now. Head on over to patreon.com/Cinema.
Yeah, head on over and watch me literally have the worst fucking... It's borderline snuff, I'm going to say it. It's the closest this podcast has ever come to it. Listen to an angry Irish man and learn why he hates musicals and get embroiled in fucking depression around Halloween time because you have to watch a shit fucking Johnny Depp. It's all happening all over again.
So if you're hankering for more spooky stuff, that's the place to go to listen to some more.
The movie du jour. Behind this rusty old creaky door, it's Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice won the vote, and I will say Beetlejuice won the vote rather handsomely, Sam.
Handsomely, comfortably, wonderfully, it did it.
We should probably make it a little bit scarier, given the Brandon and all that.
Scarily.
Yeah.
Spookily.
Yeah.
Ghoulishly.
Oh, I love a bit of goulash me. Yeah, it's very good.
Creepily.
I mean, no, it didn't creep in though. Honestly, this was
Darily. Sorry.
Michael Myers' unrelenting force is what it was. Again, we've not done Halloween here. We did it earlier in the year, not on Halloween. I can see why we didn't do spooky movies outside of Halloween ever. Especially like the one Halloween movie we do out of Halloween, and we do one called Halloween.
Yeah.
That is making it difficult to get straight in my head right now.
Yes, but at the time I found it funny, and so that's why we did did that because I thought it'd be funny to do Halloween not on Halloween.
I feel like I'm lying when I tell you guys that we did this, but it's not. It did happen. It legitimately did.
It did happen. It did really happen. But that's not the film du jour today. The film du jour today is Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Now, we've chatted about Tim Burton.
Hold on a minute. Are we doing Cinema Swirl or a Bush Tucker trial right now, Kevin? That's what I'm asking you, because I don't want to be drinking no Beetlejuice with Ant and Dec looking
I see.
on.
Very.
Yes.
I just thought that you had accidentally introduced an invasive species into the podcast. That's what I thought you were talking about there now. Anyway, sure, look at. So we've talked about Tim Burton before. And we've talked about Tim Burton recently as well. But I want to know.
Yes.
I want to know what, if anything, do you know about Beetlejuice? Who's in it? What's it about? What's you reckoning? Also, how the fuck did you avoid Beetlejuice? You grew up in the 90s.
Right.
Also, hello.
Hello. Let's tackle that in order. Right. I've forgotten the order, but what do I know? Who's in it? Michael Keaton is in it.
Yeah?
I'm pretty familiar with Keaton, all right?
Why is that? Is it because of your GCSE Batman required viewing?
That was number one.
I'm Tony Blair, and my vision for the United Kingdom, new Labour, new Britain, new requirements for all children doing GCSEs to watch Batman.
Michael Keaton is what he said in his little speech. So I've seen him in that Batman, and that was also Tim Burton.
Yeah.
I've seen him in Birdman.
Oh!
I've seen him in Spider-Man, brackets, where he plays a Birdman.
Yeah, all right, enough of the men movies. You seen him in any other non-man movie? I know there's the one, the founder, where
The Founder, I like The Founder.
Yeah, where he's the founder of McDonald's. I know you saw that.
I saw him in a documentary about the Comedy Store in America, cause he used to be a comedian, Michael Keaton.
It, you're right.
He used to be a stand-up comedian.
I always forget that.
And I thought, this is quite a good documentary. And then towards the end, they started interviewing Louis C.K. post-cancellation. I was like, oh no, this has gone weird, this documentary. What's happening here? This is very strange. But Michael Keaton used to be a comedian, and that was news to me until I watched that documentary. So there you go.
And just so anyone is wondering, like, Louis C.K., just because he's a comedian and he's been cancelled, that doesn't mean he's going to become like Batman or anything like that.
No.
That's like, I don't want to think about that.
No. But so I'm quite familiar with Keaton. I know some of his work, and I know he's in this.
I know you use the word familiar and not I like.
I do like him. I do like him. I'm familiar with him, and I like him. There's a lot of things I'm familiar with and that I like. Pepsi Max. Very, very familiar with, and I like it. You know?
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
I'm not saying Michael Keaton is at Pepsi Max level for me, but he's good. I've seen him in things. He's been good in things. He's got in fact, he was also in the Jack Frost thing that we watched.
He
over
certainly
on Cinema
was.
Swirl. Yeah. So he's made an appearance on Swirl before, but not on Swirl yet, I don't believe.
Not on Swirl. Interesting.
No.
Yeah, I think you're right.
His debut on Swirl. Other than him being in it, I think he's the titular Beetlejuice.
So Beetlejuice is not the name of the movie, it's the name of the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main guy is Beetlejuice, right?
The main guy. Okay.
The main character of Beetlejuice is called Beetlejuice. I also know, right? I don't know anyone else in it. I also know that Beetlejuice is the name of a star in... there's a star called Beetlejuice. And I know that because there's a Blur song called Far Out, sung by the bass player and cheesemaker Alex James.
Oh, that was the one they used for the Tory leadership campaign in 2019, wasn't it? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Good friends with Clarkson and Cameron is Alex James, which makes it very difficult to enjoy some of those cracking bass lines.
Yeah, and he's probably like, I can't leave my child in a pub. He's having a fight because he didn't get his steak. We're a right old odd couple of threes we are. Oh, goodness.
Anyway, one of the few songs that he was allowed to ever sing, he just names a bunch of stars and celestial bodies and things like that, and one of them is Beetlejuice. Wolf 359 Beetlejuice. In the sky at night. Anyway, I know that Beetlejuice is a star.
I'm going to take a stand against now, right? Because if in our medium, which admittedly is a lot closer to just listing things and saying things, if we just listed out the names of stars, we get the fucking thick end of the wedge. And that's meant to be music. Come on.
All I'm saying, Kevin, is that there is not a single other Blur song that features Alex James on vocals or songwriting duties since that one. He got one go and he fucked it. But in that song, there is reference to Beetlejuice, which is a star. So I know that Beetlejuice is a star.
I think we can classify that piece of trivia as besides the point. So
Absolutely. But we love to go on a tangent, especially at Halloween. He's got a suit, a stripy suit. Black and
Stripy
white
suit?
stripy suit.
How do you know that? Is that like something you've seen on like people dressing up on Halloween, or is it something that you just seen from the poster?
The look of Beetlejuice, I sort of know, kind of. So we've got that stripy suit, black and white. I think we've got kind of Doc Brown looking hair. You know, they're kind of out there.
No, it's more white actually, I think.
Fuck's sake.
Your dark brown hair. This guy doesn't even know. Imagine if Beetlejuice had dark brown hair. I've heard of Boo, but brunette? Come on.
He's got hair that goes out there, and I think it's kind of grey, whitish colour, and a scary, spooky face. It's a very popular Halloween dressing up costume, is Beetlejuice.
Okay, because I will say, I knew like one guy, and I'd say there's probably 2 or 3 women I knew over the years who did, like on Halloween, they dressed as Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
And I always thought, cracking job. That's like,
Right.
You can't phone in a Beetlejuice costume, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's many elements there. There's makeup, there's hair, there's a suit, there is embellishments to the suit, there are mannerisms. You know, there's a lot to go on there. To be quite frank, Sam, it's a full-on Halloween experience if you're going to go as Beetlejuice.
You know when places do non-licensed Halloween costumes? Where
Yes.
they try and do a name to suggest what the thing is. Like Luigi being Plumber's Mate.
And Waluigi being bad plumber's mate.
I was trying to work out what Beetlejuice would be, and the best that my brain could come up with was Slugwater. And that's nothing. That is nothing.
Oh, Sam. That's upsetting.
Slugwater. That
Come
sounds like
on.
a kind of Victorian evil character, doesn't it? Oh, Slugwater.
It does. It sounds like what would be one of them fucking shitty pies that I had to enjoy recently. So come here to me. You've
Yes.
told me what he looks like. You know, the name and all that, and the hair, etc.
Yeah.
Who is Beetlejuice? What's he do? What's it all about then?
This is the bit I don't know, genuinely have no idea about.
Well, we're into reckoning territory then, isn't it? It's time for the reckoning, okay?
Right. This is going to sound stupid, but
Okay.
I think he does something with electricity out of
Okay.
his fingers, maybe. I've got
Okay.
something in my head that he's got electric fingers.
Is it because of his hair that you're thinking that is a result of some sort of like an electric shock?
So maybe he's got like electricity power. And other than that guess, I mean, it's a Tim Burton film.
Is he a goodie or a baddie?
Well, this is what I'm wondering. I think this is going to be closer to the kind of comedy and possibly musical side of spooky territory rather than... I don't think this is a straight horror and he's the horror villain.
But you think it's going to be a bit goth, though, the whole business?
I think it's a bit goth, a bit spooky.
Macabre.
A little bit of the macabre. But I think he's a good baddie. I think, you know, much like the Suicide Squad situation, he's been brought in. I think he's come in to do good, but he's traditionally a villain guy.
Why would you invoke Suicide Squad?
But he's like the main one, and he's actually doing good. Well, I don't know.
So, are you saying he's supernatural, or is he just like need a wash?
Oh, I think he's either supernatural.
Okay.
He might have got struck by lightning and died, and he's like an undead lightning man or something.
Okay.
He could be dead. He could be a ghost.
Could be dead. He could be a ghost.
I don't think it's as simple as he's a bloke. I think there's more to it than that. I think he's got something about him.
But you don't know what.
He looks a bit pale of face.
Yeah?
Like he's been dead for a bit and has come back. Or he's close to death. Or he is death.
And do you expect him to be, like, you have an image of him. Do you expect Beetlejuice to be, like, a scary character who's kind of in silly situations? Or do you expect him to be, like, kind of more of a wacky, just a straight-up wacky persona or whatever? Like, thinking what you know about Michael Keaton, you know, how he might play it. What do you reckon to here?
He can be quite out there and wacky, but he can be quite stern and serious and intimidating looking. Now, do you remember the Grim Reaper from, what's it called? I keep wanting to say Max and Paddy's.
Max and Paddy's Excellent Adventure.
Bill and Ted.
To the fucking DVD shelf, like.
Bill and Ted's, the Grim Reaper from Bill and Ted 2.
Oh, yeah, from Bogus Journey, yeah.
I'm kind of picturing that kind of vibe.
Like on the surface, it's meant to be he's a scary figure, but he is actually kind of like a bit silly in his own way.
Yeah,
right?
or someone gives him a wedgie or something.
But he himself wants to be taken seriously.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think he's meant to be scary, but I think this will be him in non-scary situations or something like that.
And has this movie come up much in terms of like people asked you to watch it or like people you knew who were fans? Were you aware of any of like what happens with Beetlejuice and his saying his name or anything like that? Do you know any of those things?
No.
No?
No.
No?
I think I've eaten a Beetlejuice-themed cake.
What? Oh, if it's the black and white in the suit, though, that should be a nice,
Yeah.
go for the dark and,
It
I'll tell you,
was.
dark chocolate and white chocolate together. Let me tell you now.
It was lovely. We had a Halloween-themed bake-off at work. I didn't participate, but I was on the sort of, judging panel. Everyone just had a bit, and we all voted on which one we liked the most. It was delicious. It was really delicious, but it was that kind of black and white striped, and it had some green coming out.
And then with the dark brown hair as well, that should be delicious as well.
There was some green coming out of it.
Green?
I think there was green.
Where was the green?
Was there green? Was this a Beetlejuice cake? No, it had the black and white, and there might have been green.
It's not like a sexy Cruella de Vil cake you ate or something.
It could have been, maybe. But I think it was Beetlejuice, because everyone was like, "Oh, is that Beetlejuice?" And I think the person who baked the Beetlejuice cake was upset that other people didn't all get the reference to Beetlejuice. I think it might have been a bit subtle.
I think it is. I don't know if I'm right, because I love Beetlejuice as a fucking kid, but I love Beetlejuice long before I saw the movie, because there was a Beetlejuice cartoon that I was fucking obsessed with.
Okay.
And then I finally saw the movie when I was a teenager, and it blew my goddamn mind. I'm not gonna lie, but I was always quite surprised that I know there's been rumblings of a sequel to this for many, many, many years. Like Michael Keaton's career died and has reborn. Like in the space of time, there's been speculation about a sequel. But I would think I was always a little bit shocked that it didn't kind of not penetrate the mainstream, or I guess it's not be referred to more, be more in the kind of the public eye. Considering that we're in like peak nostalgia at the moment, I feel Beetlejuice is probably somewhat left behind in that sense. I'm not sure.
Possibly. It's got a cult following, absolutely.
I'm not saying that Sam's Office Bake Off is the fucking absolute transection of British society and life.
It's not far
But if
off.
none of them got the reference, and the closest was you, who didn't even... you have filmed podcasts where the gimmick is you've not seen Beetlejuice as of this episode. That speaks to me quite loudly that perhaps it has not been embraced by the younger generations and the older generations.
It's one of those ones that I've sort of heard tell of like, oh, you should watch Beetlejuice, but not ever like why I should watch it or what's good about it, you know? You haven't seen Beetlejuice? You want to watch Beetlejuice? Why? You watch Beetlejuice?
I'm delighted for you to watch it, but when we... honestly, it's not one that I've rewatched many times, even though I loved it. And even though the Beetlejuice cartoon was honestly one of my favourite things when I was a kid, because I liked to consume the media that was given to me as a child. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I reckon you like it.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
But to say that you have even remotely zeroed in on literally anything about the movie and what it'll be is an understatement.
I've got a guess.
Yeah?
About how I think he's got big shoes, like a clown would.
Big shoes to fill, like?
No, literal big shoes.
A literal big shoes.
I reckon he's got clown shoes on.
No, that's Beetle shoes you're thinking of. Shoes the size of a beetle. The car, you idiots.
Yeah.
Come on. Well, now that we know what we don't know, let's go into the unknown, which is knowing that there's some mail that needs to be answered, and it's only in a bag.
Fucking hell, what was that? Oh, it's just the mailbag. It's just some mail.
No, that was the mail bat you opened. Oh.
Thank you, as ever, for all mail sent in to cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
That's cinemaswirl@gmail.allmail.
If you've... Not all mail, mate. If you've got any... if you've got any questions, queries, comments, or other stuff, and send it on over to that their same address.
Please.
Our first message comes in from John, and I say John in inverted commas, you'll see why later. Dear lads, ever since the infamous Colin Cum was first mentioned in an earlier episode...
I swear to God, that always catches me by surprise.
Yeah, it's caught on, Colin Cum.
Yeah, I didn't really think it would have. I really didn't. Very rarely do exasperated things catch on.
Ever since Colin Cum was first mentioned in an earlier episode, I've always thought that it sounded like a name for an unrealised garbage pail kid, and fully expected other listeners to feel the same, resulting in a submission of some hilarious artwork to yourselves. As far as I know...
We've literally been on our hands and knees begging for artwork, and we're going to get a cum artwork now. Is that what's happened here?
As far as I know, that hasn't happened yet. And in order to exercise
why don't we just call this Cinema Cum with Kevin and Sam, and Colin can be the host, and we'll just show up now and then.
I mean, I'm not against it. And in order to exercise the image from my head, I've done my best at creating a mock-up of what a Colin Cum trading card would look like, which you will find attached. If you're not already familiar with Garbage Pail Kids, I would strongly suggest Googling them first, as context is fairly crucial.
I was shocked by how fucking horrible, and I was, child of the 90s as we both are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ew, gross. But I remember watching a video where someone just went through their entire Garbage Pail Kids card collection, and some of them are just fucking miserable,
Well, John mentions that context is crucial with the abomination he has sent. It says, FYI, I'm sending this from a burner account under a pseudonym as my future mother-in-law listens to the show. I don't think we're ready for that conversation yet. All the best. John, inverted commas.
A lot of soon-to-be mother-in-laws of would-be Johns who are listening now with trepidation.
Now, here's the thing. Have you got this image on your...
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. All right, no, I've not seen it, Sam. I've witnessed it.
Well, here's the thing I would say to John, is that this, clearly... Look, I appreciate it. It's taken a lot of work. It's very good.
But it is an affront to
it's
all
also
things
disgusting.
decent.
And,
it is.
And I don't appreciate... I appreciate you having done this, and I don't appreciate you having done this.
I to a degree, respect the work that has went into it. But also, the fact that work has went into this is also, somehow disrespectful to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, at time of releasing this episode, this picture should be up on our... I was going to say on our socials. I think this might get us in trouble on Facebook, so I'll probably just pop it up on the Twitter.
At Cinema Swirl.
Have a little look at John's work. It's impressive and an abomination.
And it'll come up with a little thing saying, do you want to look at this picture of Colin Cum before commenting? Just check the link out, so you're not just... Look, we don't want to engage in a culture war here, let alone a cum culture war.
Look, I always appreciate fan art and things like that. But, John, thank you. Please don't do that again.
In that culture war, Colin Cum would be a colonel, because just the phrase Colonel Colin Cum sounds...
Yeah. There we go. I thought we put in something spooky in here, and that was genuinely frightening.
What? Between this and fucking Sweeney Todd, when did horror just become about upsetting me? When did that happen, huh? Oh, it's new, seldom seen Garbage Pail Kid, fucking Tony wet pavement being brushed by a fucking coarse yard brush. Oh, look.
Tony wet pavement.
It's Percy pork pie full of jelly.
I mean, John, if you want to mock up some of those as well, pop them on over to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Right. Thank you.
And with that, the email account is erased forever.
Last episode, Dirty Dancing, we spoke about the concept of an all-night disco that I had when I was a young child.
Yes, and I would say, if you've not checked out that very mind-blowing discussion, we'll save you spoiler for now, because you do want to go and find that in its context. It is, to this day, as a former teacher and a former student, mind-blowing.
But what we've had in some correspondence, RE All Night Disco, so I want to just read out some of those, because they're great.
And I will say as well, I kicked this football around the Pod Crabs gang and asked as far and wide, not a fucking sausage.
No.
And some accusations that Sam might be lying as well, and Sam, I wasn't having any of that.
No, come on now, please. I can send you the link to the permission slip on the website as proof. Now, speaking of not a sausage, I think there might be a hint of a sausage here.
Oh?
Because Rob has written in, "Hi Kevin and Sam, just started a late night listen to the Dirty Dancing Swirl, and I was delighted to find out that the all-night disco wasn't just an imagined event. I can confirm that my school, brackets, a school in Nottingham, but not my school, attempted to hold one when I was in around year 8. 2002.
Sorry, he says attempted here.
Yes.
Now. That's also as well, it's not very, very good for this discussion point for our data here.
Yeah.
When our two lone data points we have at the moment, both are localized entirely within Nottingham. I literally was about to say, the downside of this, Sam, is our surprising global reach of Cinema Swirl. where, no, I'm not saying we have millions of listeners, but the thousands that we have do tend to come from different countries. And I thought that might smorgasbord here. But no, what's the Nottingham perspective like on this?
We'll come back to that later, and you'll be eating your words and indeed some humble pie. My permission slip, says Rob, was signed and sealed and delivered in anticipation of just being with my friends all night legally and with permission. Unfortunately, it got cancelled a couple of days before with no official reason as to why, but rumours were rife with theories. Teachers had heard of planned alcohol consumption during the disco and scheduled violence between schoolyard enemies. Scheduled violence. What a band they were. I've messaged my friend about it to see if they remember, and their reply was yes. I don't think it ever happened, though. Didn't the teachers get scared because everyone was planning on just staying up all night and not letting anyone get any rest? So yes, it was a thing.
Okay, sorry. The teachers were scared at the all-night disco of the plot underway to stay up all night at the all-night disco.
One of the key details there from Rob is that he was going to go to this in around year 8.
Yeah, that's so for international / standard reference, you'd be around 13 or so in school.
Now, when we were talking about it, I was thinking, well, I must have been in year 11 about to go to sixth form because that's the only time that makes sense for this. But I think I was younger. I think I might have been year 8, 9, 10. I think I was a bit younger.
Because I felt like that was just us kind of bashing out the logic there of thinking, well, that's when it would have been. And then when the nugget of an idea that, oh, of course, this was to kind of preemptively cut out any students going out on the RAS because they got their GCSE results. But you're reckoning it could have been, what, year 8 or roughly thereabouts? Because when you started, you were talking from the point of view that you were younger than 15 or 16.
Yeah, I think I was. And the fact that they had, like, you know, those big Velcro walls that you put a suit on and you jump on as some of the entertainment. You know those? You get a big inflatable Velcro wall that you get to just run up and bounce and jump on.
No, see, we didn't get that in my school. We just got measures to stop the proliferation of the dreaded foot and mouth virus. That's all we got.
I forget about our cultural divide. Now, I think I would have been a bit younger.
Or the Britain virus, as we called it.
And it's very curious. But the fact that Rob is based in, was when he was younger, based in Nottingham, I think they must have heard tell of my school's all-night disco and wanted to do it.
And look, if we've proven anything on this podcast, it's that Nottingham, the sole city in the United Kingdom with a Hooters that has survived lockdowns parts 1, 2 and 3 and a global pandemic, is not a typical English city now, is it? It's a different place.
Yes. Pride of Britain. It's not...
Pride of Britain with your booby restaurants and your child discos.
Never the twain shall mix, though, just to be clear there. Now, interestingly, when you mentioned international listeners, Claire has written in and writes, "Hey, Swirly Boys, my name is Claire, long-time listener, first-time writer. In your Dirty Dancing episode, Sam brought up the all-night disco. And we were wondering whether this was the sort of thing that existed outside of Nottingham. I went to high school in Tucson, Arizona, in the United States, and at the end of my senior year, the final year before college, so that would have been like the end of sixth form.
Okay, so you're more like 17, 18 probably then.
We had an event called Grad Night. It started in the evening after our graduation ceremony, and just like the event that Sam described, it lasted from sunset till sunrise.
Oh, see, that would work as well, because you could use your graduation robe as like a little blanket, couldn't you? You know?
In terms of why it existed, it's just as Sam speculated. The idea was that since graduation night is a time when kids are going to go out and drink too much, get in car accidents, etc., and make all sorts of other terrible decisions, the school was offering an alternative version with proper adult supervision.
I see. I noticed here now offering, implying that this was like an opt-in thing as opposed to what we thought where it was like, you know, everyone's going to be going to this thing now. You have to go to this thing.
Well, given that this was an officially sanctioned and alcohol-free school event, you might think the kids would think it was thoroughly uncool, but the memory of it was that generally speaking, students were really excited about grad night. Pretty much the entire class went and everyone had a great time. Claire writes there again, I was a thoroughly uncool teen, so I might not have been the best barometer.
Yeah.
There was dancing, food, assorted carnival games, a quiet little corner where you could rest, but the most notable thing was a miniature casino, and all this stuff about like a lovely sounding night where all the class got together to have a nice little...
Well, like when I was a teacher, you know, and it's different in Ireland because in Ireland we don't have GCSEs. We have junior cert, which you have when you're like 15 or 14 there. You know, some people have it around that time. And then we have relieving cert, which is the equivalent to the end of your A-levels where we're like 18 or whatever. The idea of like when the results came out that you're all going to go out, because I was in school in Dublin and like, you know, there were kids and they're like, yep, here it is. I got my junior cert results. Right. I'm going to go out for a night on the tiles. And like, right, here you go now. You're fucking 15 years old and you look like 12 and you think you're going to go go into Dublin city centre, pay a cover charge and get in and start buying some €10 pints, are you? And what it ended up being was that we had like a great mix. And I saw this as well when I was teaching in quite a rural school. And this happened with GCSEs as well. There was the kids who were like, oh, we're all going to go out. And then there were the kids who were like, oh, I think other people are going out, but that's not for us. And none of the kids who wanted to go out actually managed to, because it was a small village, you know, so all the pubs are like, no, we're not serving children. Yeah. Where are you going to go? So you had half of people who just lied and said they all went out, and the other half were like jealous about something that didn't happen. So the idea of this all-night disco is sounding more and more rational. But I'm thinking we need more plot points here, because Tucson, Arizona, that could basically be the Nottingham of New Mexico, you know? So,
well, thank you for your message, Claire. If Grad Night resonates with anyone else and they had different experiences of it, let us know.
Bonus points if you're from not Nottingham, or not Arizona, you know?
And you've had some sort of experience of this.
Bonus points if you have life experience.
I think there must be another school in the UK that's done this. Surely. There must be one. My school in Nottingham can't be the only fucking school that's ever done this.
This feels like not a job for Google, more like a job that you and I need to go down to like some newspaper archives in a library and look for like tragic events that happens.
Maybe a bit too much research. I'm not, you know, I'm not a Dave Gorman type figure. I'm not going to go find evidence of all-night discos, you know.
I'm not Dave Gorman type figure. I'm not going to go and like advertise Freeview Television, for instance. No, look, it's an ongoing investigation. That's it, all right?
We're curious to hear more.
Curious to hear more. The investigation can go cold. It's all up to you, the listener. cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
So thank you for your mailbag submissions. Right, that's it for the spooky mailbag. It wasn't as spooky, but I think the Colin Cum trading card did a lot of the heavy lifting there, really, in terms of spookiness.
Are you ready to be scared and or delighted and or entertained?
Give me that juice.
Then let's go do a spooky swirl.
Just before we get into talking about this movie, I wanted to let you know, as this is a film featuring Alec Baldwin, this episode was recorded before the tragic news came out about the death of Helena Hutchins on the set of Rust. We haven't changed anything about the episode, and there weren't any references or jokes that could have accidentally seemed insensitive. I think for context, it's worth knowing. So let's get back into it.
Where boo, Sam, initial Goult reaction for Beetlejuice.
Hey! Look, right, I wanted to do a kind of spooky... Ooh,
but that might have made out that you had a spooky, terrified time. I'm not sure if that was appropriate or not.
What I wanted to try and communicate was that I had a laugh, I had a good time, I wasn't that scared, but it's not really a horror film, is it? It's a horror-adjacent comedy film, but... Hey, good. So I wanted to get that out in a sound. I couldn't.
You weren't scared or made uncomfortable during this?
Not really.
It's interesting because I believe it was a previous Burton adjacent offering.
The stop motion
we had
thing.
A deep dive on the stop motion. And this wasn't stop motion trying to be cute. This was stop motion trying to be ooky and strange. Yeah. And I think he actually said to Tim Burton about this, that he purposely made a lot of that animation stuff. He made it a little bit rougher than the studio would have wanted, because he wanted it to invoke those kind of older B movies and stuff like that. So have you like kind of come round on this? Because obviously people tend to forget that we're human beings who develop and grow over the years. I know it's crazy, and I'm not closing the door on the possibility that you're no longer scared or perturbed by stop motion.
There's not loads of stop. There's quite a bit, but there's not loads of stop motion in this. And what I think's happened, not to get all Paul McKenna on you, but through doing this podcast and watching films with fucking stop motion in, I've had a bit of the old immersion therapy.
Oh, so are you saying that lights have guided you home and you have been fixed? You've been fixed, you have. And that's what Paul McKenna would do at the end of his show, when he'd go, and you've been fixed. And he pointed, hey! Yeah.
I've been fixed. You know, I've been a little bit desensitized to it. I'm not quite as eked out by it. But I still don't like it.
You've got tougher skin to it, is what you're telling me.
I think so. There's bits where I'm like, ugh. But Tim Burton handles stop motion well, even when he's trying to make it look disgusting. It's only ever a certain aesthetic or a certain type of motion that just puts me off, and it's not that bad. But yeah, not completely grossed out by this.
Here's an interesting one, like to try and maybe figure this one out. You know, like the very first Wallace and Gromit, where he's like, racking cheese, Gromit, let's go to the moon. That's what I think we should do. And it's like, oh, Jesus, what? Like, whoa. Like, there's a bit on Blackpool Pleasure Beach where you go on a Wallace and Gromit themed ride. And when you get to that bit, it's like, oh, it's a ghost train now because early Wallace, Gromit's fine, early Wallace,
disturbing.
I've got articulation in me eyes, lad. I need to go to the moon.
Genuinely a bit horrific. Yeah. Give me that Aardman animation where they're trying to make it look like stop motion, but it's CGI. Give me that flushed away shit. Inject that into my veins, all right? I want it smooth. I want lighting effects. I want no real hands to have touched it. I want digital hands all over it. No.
And I want David Tennant to voice everything. Everything.
Most modern slick Aardman stuff, apart from like the very early stuff, is absolutely fine. I don't even get icky about it from my stop motion perspective. You're right about early Wallace and Gromit. Yeah.
Never mind Wallace and Gromit. Let's talk about Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin and this frankly ridiculously impressive cast that is stacked long before and also starring Michael Keaton as the titular Beetlejuice.
Oh, it's a stellar cast. Yeah.
It's a stacked cast, Sam. It's ridiculous.
Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder. It's stacked.
And a paedophile as well.
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
all sorts.
The paedophile. We've encountered the... So the guy who was the principal in Ferris Bueller.
Jeffrey Jones?
Something like that. Take a look at his Wikipedia page. Have a little look there in the personal life or criminal conviction section.
Kind of, that goes further from personal life. Like that's more into legal issues and troubles.
Yeah.
So he showed up, I think, on Howard the Duck.
On Cinema Swill, yeah.
On Cinema Swill over on Patreon.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel very appropriate to talk about it in a great deal of depth.
No.
But he's just someone who shows up everywhere, and particularly if you're a fan of the movies of the late 80s and early 90s.
I was initially delighted to see him in Howard the Duck when we watched that. I was like, oh, it's the guy from The Thing. And then
I was like, no, he is somebody else.
Wikipedia over here gave me all the pertinent information. Like, oh no, that's a real horrible, horrible thing.
And so what it is that he asked a 14-year-old to pose nude for him, and he was also found with child pornography or images of an underage person of a sexual nature, and he didn't serve prison for it as far as I know.
Okay.
But he got in trouble on 2 occasions because he didn't update he's a registered sex offender. You can go on the American Sex Offender Registry and find him. And he didn't update his status like you're meant to on it or whatever it is. So I'm talking like it's fucking Foursquare. But he got in trouble on multiple occasions for not checking in.
Right.
And on one occasion, with the last kind of biggish movie he was in was Who's Your Caddy, which in a roundabout fun random story, when I was in New York when I was 19 years old, I was asked to provide audience feedback. I was in a cinema anyway, and someone was like, hey, do you want to go watch 10 minutes of this movie and give feedback? And Who's Your Caddy, which is a romp to say that, no, it's an awful, awful movie.
Okay.
But he's in it, and that production got in trouble because all the people in the neighborhood were like, he's a sex offender and you didn't tell us that he was coming. And they were inviting families to come on set to see the Hollywood movie. Bring the kids! Like, no, don't bring the kids. There's a sex offender there.
Well, that's the horror portion covered of
that's it. And
Spooky Swirl.
Right there in Spooky Swirl. But like, I was quite amazed that his career is still kind of, I mean, it's not what it was, obviously, but, you know, the Deadwood movie, when that came out, they brought him back, you know, and I was quite shocked. Like, you know, I'm a big Deadwood fan, but I didn't think he was a necessary, like, oh, he has to be back. Bring back the paedophile.
Deadwood was after he was convicted. So, yeah, the original Deadwood was like, anyway, he's in it.
He's in it.
A who's who of
who's who of ghouls, both fictional and real, in this movie. Speaking of, we do open as well on something very scary indeed for Sam.
Oh, right. We pan over a sleepy model village, which initially I thought was like, oh, Tim Burton's really doing the whole models aesthetic here, and he's making it look all kind of... You know how, like, Wes Anderson doesn't even bother to make it look like it's real now? He's like, I live in a
part of it.
little, you know, chocolate illustration. What am I trying to say? You know, like on a biscuit tin.
No, like in the way that Wes Anderson's new movie, I don't know if you guys know this because it's only been in the festivals. It's all done in the style of the art you would find inside the sleeve of an animal bar. And that was a very bold artistic vision, and he stuck with it the whole way.
Right. Well, we pan over this little model village, and oh no, a fucking big old spiddly dilly comes crawling over the house.
There they are.
So initially in my notes I wrote, fuck this film. Game over already. I'm not...
Spiddly Diddly's nature's stop motion animation.
Absolutely, 100%. It's not a very subtle metaphor, is it? That something scary is going to come over the house and make it all... But, you know, it sets the mood.
They're the Maitlands. They're in their slightly odd house. They're a lovely couple. They're very nice.
They're celebrating their anniversary. They're all loved up.
And they're going on vacation at home, which in 2021 is like, we've all been there.
And that's what an actual staycation is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's not going to somewhere in the UK. That's or in your own...
No, that's a U-cation. That's
Stay within your house and maybe the garden. That's a staycation, all right?
Or you could visit the grounds, brackets corner shop. You know, that's also part of the staycation experience.
So they're staying home. They're all loved up. Adam and Barbara, this couple, the Maitlands, and a real estate lady, Jane, is showing up saying, oh, there's offers on this house. It's too big for you. And when you look at the house...
sell your big weird house.
When you look at the outside of it, you're like, that is a fucking massive house. That's ridiculous, that house. It's huge. But she says it really ought to be for a couple with a family.
Yeah, but Sam, this is 1988, so a house like that would have run you like $5,000-$6,000. You know, you'd be paying that off for, you know, most of a year to a few years of your life, because that's how mortgages worked back then.
I did think that should be for a family comment, and then it all gets a little bit sad for a second. Was that necessary? That a bit of exposition? Like, either they don't want a family or they can't but I guess later with the stuff with Winona Ryder's character, you're like, oh, I see that it's implied that like they're missing a kind of child figure in their life.
Yeah, like they do say like, oh, we could try again, you know, and they're all kind of happy. But the thing is, they're very happy regardless, you know.
They're living a lovely, blissful life in their big, massive house.
The thing, I'm not sure if you got this or not, but this script, the original Beetlejuice script, was a way, way darker, way nastier piece of work. And loads of like straight up like horror moments were going to be in it originally. And it kind of got workshopped and tooled up. And I think once Burton got tied up with it and they kind of changed some of the writers and all that, there's kind of many cooks in this broth. I think saying it's just Tim Burton is probably grossly understating other people's involvement. But they definitely took something which was originally at one point going to have Beetlejuice taking the guise of a sinister Middle Eastern man who would fly around like a demon and at one point brutally murder a younger sibling of Lydia, that they've come out the other side with something a little bit more family friendly, even though it does still remind you at moments that there is something darker underneath the surface. For instance, the Maitlands, they die in this car crash, which in a loved-up couple dying in a car crash is played in the nicest way possible,
It's a really cute car crash. Of all car crashes I've ever seen, this is the most adorable one, because they swerve to avoid a dog. They're teetering off the edge of a bridge. The dog is perched on one of the like planks holding them up. Like, oh no, and then the dog jumps off, they fall off into the water, and it's just like it's an adorable car crash. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but that's the sweetest car crash I've ever seen.
Well, apparently the original car crash, you were going to see them literally like going no and like pounding on the fucking car and all that, and her arm getting ripped off and all sorts of horrible things are going to happen. But like it's so kind of cute and quick that you're kind of along with them. You don't realize really that what's happened to them when they come back in their house and they're like, oh, and the way they kind of figure out something's wrong is like they come over and they're all wet and they put their hands near the fire, and I thought it was going to be like, oh, they can't feel the warmth, but no, their fingers become candles, which is one of the telltale signs
of being dead.
Of being dead.
You become wax and you have wicks in your fingers. So Alec Baldwin tries to leave the house, and there's some cool, funky music video looking weird green screen stuff where it's like a spooky planet and there's scary shit everywhere. And there's like more clear hints that they are dead. They're not reflected in the mirror, stuff like that.
And you know what, Sam? And this, I wouldn't have said this before the last 2 years, but genuinely, I don't think I would mind this. Like, honestly, I don't think I'd mind this. If me and Joe both died in this way, and it's like, right, you both look and are the same, you're not like horrible ghouls, and you still have all your faculties, and you can seemingly touch stuff, but you have to just stay in your house that is admittedly, you're in a house that's too big. So honestly, being dead in it is probably the best way you'll ever get used out of a house like that. I was on board with the whole death thing at this point.
It's a pretty cushy afterlife situation, really, this, isn't it? Like you come back, you get to go home and still, be yourself, interact with your loved one, but no one else can kind of see you. And that's fine. I'm all right with that. Yeah, we did lockdown 1. We're all basically dead.
They don't get into things like, can they eat? Can they ghost sex? And, these things we don't address.
No.
So I could be very, very naive. They could be in a state of existential dread. But generally, their motivation, the thrust of, we just want the house to ourselves. I get that. I absolutely get that.
I think those two are able to touch each other, aren't they?
Yeah,
they interact with each other, so that's fine. I think you'd be all right. And they can pick stuff up. So even if you don't need to eat, you could kind of pretend to eat stuff for a laugh. I think it'd be absolutely fine, this.
And you probably could have people round. Like, it might be a bit protracted and you might be able to see each other, but you could see them.
Yeah.
So it's probably actually better than lockdown in a way, being dead.
Honestly, just get a whiteboard and a marker. And then you can just write stuff down and they'll see it.
And in fairness, Sam, like, not to disparage anyone I'd ever socialised with, but if everyone coming around to my house, if it was kind of agreed upon that you couldn't see me at all, but like I could do things like write or cook for you and stuff like
Not
that.
bad.
It'd take a bit of the pressure off, like, wouldn't it?
You wouldn't have to dress up.
Like, I'm just saying, like, we've all had a touch of the social anxiety here. You and I relate to this, and some of the listeners might as well.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I never gave death as a concept a fair shake with dealing with that issue. And this movie, I'm not saying I'm completely converted, but the movie had an argument to make and it made it very well. I'm just hearing them out, that's all.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'm not killing ye, don't worry, all right?
And if you hadn't pieced together at this point that they're dead, they say, oh, and there's also that, and there's a handbook for the recently deceased, which, as a visual goof, as a fun prop, as like an important part of the film, that's very fun and very funny.
Which they never seem to understand its importance. Like, they're like kind of just leaving this thing around everywhere. That'd be on my person. I'd have my special big trousers, ones with massive pockets that could hold a 2-litre bottle of Club Shandy. I'd just stick them in there. And no one would say anything because no one could see me with my horrible boot-cut pants that are definitely fictional and I don't own.
You can have a handbook for the recently deceased in one pocket and a Nintendo Switch in the other one, and you'll be absolutely fine. So Beetlejuice, we get a little look at him. He's looking through the obituaries, looking for a job. Like, I'm looking for a job. Here, who do we have here? I'm Beetlejuice. We don't see him.
He's always saying that, isn't he? He's all,
I'm Beetlejuice.
I'm Beetlejuice, baby. And that would be actually after the movie.
I'm the Beetlejuice.
When Keaton would go back on the circuits, he'd come out to be like, I'm just going to do a new material. Like, I'm Beetlejuice, baby. And I'd be like, whoa.
That Jane woman, that real estate lady from the start, she sold the house. She sold it. Oh,
and we find out as well that, like, time doesn't work like normally in the afterlife. So what appears to be like a little stint of time for the ghost is actually oftentimes a lot longer as well. So time doesn't work quite as normal. The new owners, the Dietzes. We got a pedophile. We got Catherine O'Hara and Lil Winona Ryder, who, in retrospect, probably was the basis of style for, I'd say, at least 4 or 5 people I've known over the years. They're like, they went into the haircut / all clothes shop and said, give me the Lydia.
Yes, an inspirational look if you're thinking of, goths, basically.
Or funereal chic, as I like to call it.
Oh, funereal.
Anytime I can say the word funereal, I'm happy. And it's Spooky Swirl, so it might come up once or twice.
That's got a sticky mouthfeel, funereal.
Oh, it's a fudgy word, Sam. It absolutely is. It's a jammy word.
You really need to chew on funereal to really, get it there. They're moving into this house, the Dietzes, and they're kind of yucky New York types coming out to the sticks to settle down.
We have Catherine O'Hara is like a kind of an unsuccessful artist.
Yeah.
JJ seems to be something along the lines of some sort of a financier or like big cat on Wall Street, because he's meant to be retired, and the kind of running gag is that he is incapable of escaping like the work mindset.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's glad we've mentioned all this stuff about him being a despicable piece of shit. So anything little moments where I'm like, I appreciate the craft is not an endorsement of a paedophile.
No.
But when he's like, I'm perfectly at ease, and you can see his leg just kind of hovering and vibrating, that like little touches like that, he plays it very well.
Look, there's a reason why he was in everything, this guy,
Character actor, Sam. Here's one for you. I don't think we have character actors as much as we used to back in the day, it feels like. It feels like in the 80s and 90s, there were like a good stable of men and women who were known as being character actors. Yeah. And now in 2020s, it feels like we've got the people who were known as character actors back then, the few of them that are still alive.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who are the modern character actors? I want to know.
Well, I was going to say, like, Paul Giamatti? Yeah?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's more of a leading man now, I think.
Yeah. The Philip Seymour Hoffman, but he's no longer with us.
The character actor feels like it's definitely like the road less travelled. You can't be having 5 seasons of a successful prestige drama with you as the lead and be a character actor. But maybe I'm completely wrong on that.
Well,
maybe you might think, oh, Paul Giamatti, he's a character, and that's fine. That's good enough for you. That's your low bar.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's some colourful characters in this film, because Catherine O'Hara, she's going about spray painting the word mauve onto walls, much to the delight of her interior designer, that is funny, that. We're just going around just spray painting things. Mauve.
Did you kind of get any of these moments where you're like, Jesus, this is 1988? Or, just kind of felt like it's a little bit ahead of its time in some respects. Yeah, even though obviously they're satirizing 80s excess, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know, it feels very like this is a mother movie that it birthed lots of other ideas and concepts that were taken visually. Yes.
It's like stylized enough that it doesn't feel as dated as it perhaps should. It feels a bit more recent than 1988.
I think like when you do that thing though, where you kind of like, you want the effects to be a little ropey, you want just to see the artifice or whatnot.
Yeah.
Those movies always age very, very well, but I was blown away. I was just thinking this is going to look a little, I was expecting it to be a little janky, but honestly, it looked fucking nicer than Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
I would say this is the yin to Sweeney Todd's yang, but that would involve a level of contrast that movie's not particularly comfortable with. Because it'd just be a grey fucking circle, wouldn't it?
And if you want to hear Kevin expand on his thoughts, head on over to patreon.com/cinemaswell, where we've reviewed Sweeney Todd, a different experience.
Honestly, I was going to jettison Tim Burton as someone I would ever speak favourably of ever again. I was ready to never, at a dinner party, ever again say, I saw him once at a concert and I shouted his name and he turned around and I took a picture of him on my 3510i. I was going to jettison all of that. And then this movie brought me back into the fold.
Well, that's great.
Not a Burton head, but a Burton forehead for sure.
So, Adam and Barbara, they're attempting to scare these new residents. They want them to go away, but they are adorable, this couple.
I love this.
Like, it's very, very funny, the idea of actual dead people doing sort of impressions of what scary dead people should be like. They're trying to be scary, even though they are dead.
Like, their first scare attempt is probably the scariest thing that they do. They're like, oh, geez, what will we do? Like, I don't know, maybe, like, hang yourself in the closet and have your fucking face come off and scream. They're so mild-mannered and nice. And that's like Tim Burton stuff at its best, where, like, you can give me something like that and I still think they're cutesy characters, these two.
And he's running around with no head, because they did a bit where he's got his head off and they're trying, look, he's got no head, and he's running around trying to close the attic door so they can't get in there. And I think he just doesn't want them to ruin his lovely model village. That's the thing he's
That's
protecting.
That's the main thing, yeah. The attic is locked and off limits, but of course this is all causing a great deal of stress for the Dietzes. Delia Dietz, Catherine O'Hara, with one of my favourite lines, I swear to God, I will go insane and take you with me.
She's great, isn't she?
She's
fantastic.
Good. And you know what? I feel like a real mug that it took me seeing something like Schitt's Creek to realise just how good she is. Good Lord, she's fabulous.
But I think a lot of people are in that same boat. you know?
Yeah.
A kind of retrospective, oh, wait, she's, incredible at this sort of stuff. So, yeah.
So they go into the afterlife. And I do remember the cartoon, this is called The Neither World. I guess it's because afterlife is a lot more like, yeah, they're all dead here. And let me tell you, anytime they step out of the mortal world into the various bits that make up this afterlife, it's just fucking gold. When they go onto that weird planet with the sandworms, like it's so stylized, it's so weird. It's like they're walking into like album covers from prog bands from the fucking 70s or something. I love it. And the reason it's so hodgepodge is that apparently in the original script it's like, oh no, they're going to like the moons of Jupiter, and then they're going to go to like, the river Styx and all these different places. And then they just grab them all together and say, nah, this is just the afterlife. It's just loads of random weird
Just
shit.
fucking weird.
Great. Love it. Don't explain it. It's fine.
It's a lovely opportunity for Tim to do some of his animation stuff,
Yeah.
It's a nice little...
Them sandworms.
Yeah. Oh, gross. Disgusting. Horrible. But...
I'm just about actually off to go see June this weekend, so it got me in sandworm mode, let me tell you.
They're proper gross stop motion bastards, but I think I can appreciate the craft. I can look at that and be like, you know what? Fair play to you. We cut back to the Dietzes having a family dinner with Winona in full goth mode.
My whole life is a dark room.
We'll build you a dark room in the basement. My whole life is a dark room. I mean, come on. That's great.
I mean, she lost me, though, when she started bashing MSG. I'll be having none of it. You at home, you need to hear this. MSG is absolutely fine, okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's great. It's as fine as Indian MSG, asafoetida, and Italian MSG, anchovies. And I realise that a lot of those things people don't like, but trust me, they're good.
And the family have decided, the Dietzes, that they're going to throw out all the furniture. They're getting rid of everything. Everything's going to be thrown out. So that's worrying for the Maitlands here. You don't want to be getting rid of everything. That's all their stuff.
They don't want to be a part of Extreme Home Makeover. It's the 80s. It's too early.
And we get a little advert from Beetlejuice. He got a little flyer or something promoting himself as a bioexorcist.
Oh, I love this ad. It's just like clear that they gave Michael Keaton, a vague bit of direction. Just said, you're a fucking car salesman. Go out there, do your thing. And he just reels off. He's like a mile a minute. It's amazing.
It's nuts, isn't it? Yeah. It's full of energy.
I'll eat anything you want me to eat. I'll swallow anything you want me to swallow.
I mean, it's that local TV thing in America, isn't it?
Yes.
The thing that Tim and Eric, have made a career out of lampooning wonderfully. It's that surreal, bizarre, local telly adverts for specific businesses.
Too energetic for what it is.
Yeah.
You just want to put a hand on someone's shoulder and say, calm down. You're like a way, way above the required level here.
And we get the thing that I didn't realise until it was too late, that he's one of the say the name 3 times and he shows up people.
Yes.
There's someone else who's that.
Who is it?
Candyman?
Yeah, it's Candyman.
Is it Candyman? Okay.
It is Candyman.
Yeah. Candyman and Beetlejuice. And I feel there's is there another one? I think there's loads of say it a bunch of times in a mirror or something and someone will pop up behind you.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if you say my name 85,009 times in a mirror, I mean, I'll come round, I'm not going to appear. I'll be on my way,
Yeah.
I'll drop me a pin. I'll come round, we'll have a chat. Why, why?
Whereas if an English person says your name 89,000 times in a mirror, they still probably won't pronounce it exactly right. I think.
No, actually, you know what? All of you in England, have a go. Say my name as many times in the mirror as possible until you get it right.
You'll never summon him because we won't quite get the stresses right.
No, you'll get fucking Kevin Moran, or if I'm in Scotland, Kevin McMahon will show. Some other fucker
Kevin Mahone.
Or Mahoon or Mahooney. Mahooney always gets me, and that's the one that's probably one of the most common ones.
Kevin Mahoney.
Who the fuck is Mahooney? No one's called Mahooney. Mahooney. Off-brand Moomins or Mahoonies.
A couple of quick notes here. Winona, Lydia, the goth daughter, she can see the Maitlands a little bit. And also, Maitland sounds like my kind of theme park. You know what I'm saying?
Hey!
I don't want to go to big celebrity land. I want to go to Maitland.
Maitland.
Maitland. Just hang out with some mates.
But would you like to go to Maitland with a celeb or your mates?
I'm taking my mates to Maitland because I'm a legend and I love Pepsi Max.
There you go. You heard
there
it
you
here
go.
first.
The guide for the recently deceased says that in event of emergency, draw a door and knock 3 times. And it works.
I do like they mention a few times that the handbook is like, it's all in there, but it's written in a slightly difficult to decipher, overwhelming manner.
Yes.
So it's basically like, imagine if you were in this exact situation, but it was like a Google product that you had to do, and you had to like sync your devices to it.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus. I mean, like, I don't trust him with my calendars anymore. I don't know if I can trust him with my afterlife.
Got to keep entering the Wi-Fi password again and again. You keep getting the thing from the back of the router.
I'm coming around on the living thing again now, if I'm honest. Like, I've almost convinced myself, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if the afterlife is full of Google products.
Lots of difficult to understand things, because like they go to the afterlife and it's overwhelming in the best way possible.
Play as many video games as you want, but only on Stadia.
Let's talk about the fucking incredible scenes here in the afterlife. The colours. I feel like there was a lot of video games I played in the 90s that borrowed liberally from this palette. And I'm talking like, I got Mario 64 vibes. I got like Day of the Tentacle and Sam and Max. And I got like all sorts from this. It's just like super vibrant, really, really unhinged, freeform imagination. There are like, it doesn't feel like it's just spiraling out into madness though. Like, there are no rules, because you got this bureaucracy that's been established here. But then seeing all these like really colorful, in some cases literally colorful characters, there's like green ladies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, the shrunken head dude, the fucking squashed guy. Oh my goodness, Sam, this was good.
The squash guy, right? Big fucking laugh. Big solid gag here. The squash guy, he's like on like a coat hanger being pulled along. He says, "How do I look?" And they say, "You look fine." He says, "Thanks, I've been feeling a bit flat," because it's squashed. So fucking really got me. Yeah, I love the bureaucracy and the boringness, but it's treated in a cartoony way, so it's really fun. Even though, you know, like, I've not watched it for a while, but The Good Place. That has a whole thing about like the afterlife being a kind of bureaucracy and there being but that's for a large part treated as actual like boring office looking places, and that's
sometimes
funny.
When we're satirizing the bureaucracy so much, you actually get dragged into the tedium of the bureaucracy and all that.
But this is like proper cartoon colourful bureaucracy, so there's so many funny colourful characters in the background.
It's a more
really
implied bureaucracy that doesn't get in the way of. Honestly, you know, it's not like kind of frantic or anything like that. The movie takes its time to introduce all of its various bits. But it's a breeze, this thing. Let me tell you, it almost watches itself.
Also, they give what I thought was a great line, and that generally hit quite hard with me, to just a janitor passing by. They see a room which is full of ghosts who have been exorcised.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, "It's death for the dead." I'm like, Jesus. Wow. You know?
You get just enough silliness and just enough morbidity.
Yeah.
Where I think it's going to be down ultimately to personal taste, because I'm sure the people who watch Sweeney Todd and they'll be like, oh, well, you know, it was morbid, but there was enough silliness for my taste. And I love the colour brown and grey. So it was fine. Whereas this, it was more silly than it was scary. But there were a few moments where I was like, Jesus Christ, yeah. Again, through the cracks in the floorboard, you can see that fucking demon movie that was in here.
Right. Yeah. I was just thinking, with all the cartoony stuff, the thing that this put me in the mind of was The Mask. You know, with Jim Carrey as The Mask, with all the kind of cartoony bending of faces and reality.
I mean, we're probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves, because like when we first see Beetlejuice, I was like, oh, okay, this is what The Mask was. This is what Jim Carrey watched.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's more than a bit. And I know it's kind of, obviously, Jim Carrey and Michael Keaton are very different guys and they have their own energy and all that. But the general idea of, let's give a comedian who is known for kind of, you know, impressions and over-the-top physicality and all that jazz, let's just kind of give him free reign and almost like write this weird character around him. I really feel like this is very prototypical for what we saw in The Mask. I think if we watched this movie before we watched The Mask, you probably would have had a different viewpoint on it, I think.
Yeah. Also, I do really love their old lady caseworker, Juno.
Yeah.
Who's basically just like, read the fucking instructions. Come on, like, what are you doing? Just read. It's all in the book. Why do you need help from me? So she's fuddy-duddy, not really helping. And so they're tempted to use Beetlejuice because they've seen the advert.
She warns them, though. She warns them. And we don't get like big loads of backstory for Beetlejuice. We just know that he used to work with her on the bureaucracy.
Yeah, and now he's a freelancer.
Side of things. And now he's freelancer and everyone kind of hates him a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm actually I'm almost like surprised when I watch this movie again, like how little, like there is a world and all that, and there's an afterlife and etc. But they don't spend lots of time world building. I feel like movies these days, if they were doing something like this, you'd have to know who's in charge of the afterlife, who was Beetlejuice before he died, what's his role, what does everyone, whereas this is just kind of, you get a little peek through. They don't dwell on it too much.
Beetlejuice, the early years, coming to Disney Plus within the next 10, 15 years, I reckon.
Well, I will say, as of 2019, the Beetlejuice sequel, which I said they've been trying to do, that is officially shelved.
Yeah.
On the dust. Shelf.
And Beetlejuice, we see that he's in the Model Village Cemetery.
And he's got a sag nut, Sam.
What is it? Is that a real thing?
Fucking right. So I've been very fortunate with fans of various podcasts over the years who've sent me and Joe some boxes of sweeties from across the universe, which I always greatly appreciate. And
with respect, and not to sound like a bitter bastard, where's my sweets? cinemaswirl@gmail.com. I'll sort.
It's all right. I'm going to tell you about the greatest goddamn bar in the world, because I got Zagnut like 6 years ago, and I laughed for a good 5 minutes just because it sounded like an old 80s wrestler they'd bring in to try and beat up the hero of the local territory. Yeah. What will you do when Zagnut comes for you, Jerry Lawler? But Zagnut, if I remember correctly...
Still making me laugh, though.
It's a great word, isn't it? And Zagnut, if memory serves me correctly, is basically a nude Butterfinger.
Right. What's a Butterfinger?
You've not...
I've heard of Butterfinger. I still never had one.
What? Sam, you can get them in the UK now.
I've still never had one.
Oh, well,
I know Bart Simpson used to advertise them, but...
There's honestly nothing like it that we have in the UK. Like, there's not.
It's not just butter coated in chocolate, though.
No, it's a buttery peanut lattice.
Right.
Kind of caramel brittle covered in a thick layer of chocolate, and it's fucking good.
Is the nude version sans
The Zagnut
chocolate.
is just the lattice, I believe, on its
right,
own.
okay.
So,
yeah. Well, Beetlejuice is using that to tempt a fly into the grave with him so he can eat it. He's eating a big
I'd be
fly.
like punching that fly. I'd be going right for it. Fuck off, fly. That's my Zagnut. Little mini Zagnut? Yes, please.
No. Adam and Barbara now being very cute. I mean, they kind of did their peak scaring early doors, because now they're just wearing sheets and saying, woo. It still doesn't work, because he thinks, the dad of the Dietzes thinks it's just his daughter messing around, Well,
that was the advice they got from Juno, was to kind of be a little bit more simple. Don't be high concept. Only do kind of what you're comfortable with, work on it, practice. There's a bit of craft that goes into a haunting, which I appreciate, because most of us probably think it's easier than it actually is. And I like that they went to that effort to explain that you do need to put the hours in if you want to.
I don't really know what I'd do if I had to haunt someone.
Be shaking up all their cans and stuff like that.
Knock shit over. What are you going to do,
I've realised, it happened last night when I was in bed, I realised that I probably, the noises that my body says make this noise. I've kind of like installed, the way in certain cars they put a thing that prohibits it going over a certain speed. Yeah. I think just as a combination of being an adult and living with someone and having a little bit of shame inside of me, I've got kind of a cap on how loud I would yawn if I was living in the woods like an animal.
Right,
or
yeah. So you just do your typical noises at full volume.
I'd go full fucking beast mode, Sam, is what I'm saying.
And that would scare anyone.
I'd make the timbers rattle with my yawns and burps.
And hey, you know what? When Catherine O'Hara is sleeping, I think, and they're trying to spook her, there's some wrestling on in the background. There's a bit of 80s wrestling. A little bit
of AWA, I think.
There's a bit of the wrestling on in the background. But it doesn't work. I think she's had sleeping pills or something. But tell you what, old bloody Winona, Lydia, she can see them. And she's very blasé about seeing the dead. She's like, oh, yeah, you're dead, are you?
She also has
cool.
a very fast Polaroid camera.
Oh, yeah. Could you, and it just keeps spitting out pictures everywhere. Yeah.
They're not that fast.
You can't even get them that fast now. Yeah. We're in the future. That was back then.
Maybe it was like back then when she was like, well, these will never run out, so...
once it's established that they're definitely dead and they are ghosts,
Yeah.
she is so happy to be chatting to some legit deados.
She can't hide her disappointment that they're ghosts and not ghouls. She really wanted a ghoul, Sam.
I suppose as a goth, right, if you meet the dead, that would be like meeting the popular boy band of the day, two goths, you know.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, you're dead. That's amazing. This is all I've ever wanted. I'm so excited to meet you. Can I get your autograph? That kind of thing.
I love how seriously Lydia takes herself, where she's like, she's figured out why she can see them. She's like, well, they say that the living ignore the strange and unusual, and I myself am strange and unusual. And there's a certain grandeur. This is kind of, I guess, an early mainstay of goth representation in the media, let's just say.
Yeah.
And I do like the kind of larger-than-lifeness of it all, you know?
Yeah.
She's not reserved in the slightest about her gothicness, and I like that.
Big goth. Proper goth here.
If you're going to go goth, go fucking all in on it, yeah?
Exactly, and that's what they've done here. And you can see why Tim Burton was drawn to this script, you know.
Although I can't see why Tim Burton didn't cast Winona Ryder in like a million more things after this. Strange.
She was in Edward Scissorhands, wasn't she? But then
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
dropped off not long after that. She was in a relationship with Johnny Depp, and then they broke up.
Ah.
And so I think it was a kind of, pick your team, Tim, and history will tell you that he went with Johnny Depp.
He did.
For better and for worse. That's who he chose.
Selections were made.
They've said Beetlejuice 3 times, so now they're sucked into that model village, which I thought the logic of what happens when you say Beetlejuice 3 times.
They're not very clear on it, are they?
No.
Because it seems to imply as well that if you say his name 3 times, you're kind of entering into a pact with him as well of some degree. Like by them saying his name 3 times, they're in business now because he's like straight away, he's like, right, off to it, we're ready. They have to dig him up for the model village. And I just love, I love the times where they go into the model village and they're like digging up and
Big
stuff.
versions of little stuff.
I got such a kick out of it. Like very rarely it happens where I'm like, I would have loved to seen this set put together or just see someone with a camera pan through, just show me what. I don't want to see a full documentary. Give me 60 seconds. I just want to see it, you know?
Well, I was thinking that. I was thinking how much fun it must have been to build these sets and put this sort of thing together. And then part of me thought, it's probably just a day's work in it, and it was like quite stressful. But part of me wants to believe like it's fun and magic, and you get
magical.
And it's exciting. You get to build all this stuff. So that here he comes out.
He's fucking gross.
Yeah. He's fucking gross.
With his smelly kisses.
The first thing I wrote down in my notes was that, he's a real colourful character. And that was before he started, like, looking at Barbara's dress and groping her and stuff. And I regret writing down colourful character now. But it was it was too late. You know, I don't want to brush that off as colourful character behaviour.
In these strongest possible terms, Your Honour, he was, and I quote, a bit of a character. In the strongest possible terms, I'm doing the special thumb with that. But, like, they acknowledge it straight away. Like, I'm pretty sure Babs says, I'm not exposing that little girl to that pervert.
I mean, look, Beetlejuice as a character is a mile a minute, big comedy energy.
But he's horrible as well. That's the most important thing.
He's grotty.
Which blew my mind, because like I watched the cartoon as a kid.
Yeah.
And, like I checked up today. That ran for 100 episodes.
Fuck.
4 series.
Wow.
So like my mind is like, a little tie-in thing. They probably made 10 of them. No. They fucking made 100 of them. Beetlejuice was a much nicer guy for the kids. He was Lydia's best friend and he loved her, and he wasn't trying to like marry anyone or fucking look up their skirt or whatever it is.
He's a bit of a sort of comedy pervert, I guess, is maybe a way of describing his character. And Barbara changes her mind and she says, home, 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 to get back to being home. I'm like, I didn't realize that's how that worked. If you say anything 3 times, it appears. Because they managed to get out of the model village by saying home, home, home.
Home, home, home.
Home, home, home. Merry Christmas.
Will it work if we go England? Would that work? I don't know.
England, England, England. Oh, look.
We're here. Fucking hell. Jesus, no. How about that? Don't write it off. Swanky dinner. Oh, no. The agent is here and friends who've come down, and hopefully they've brought cocaine with them, because that's all that these yuppies really want at the end of the day. Come and stay, please, as old Stu would say.
There's nothing here to do.
Now, when they sat around at the dinner, I wrote down here, they managed to make the prawns fucking scary. And that was before the prawns actually became haunted.
Yes, they looked gross to begin with. I love love how awfully decorated and horrible this house looks now. The kind of proper 80s
Garish,
yuppie, garish trash.
Love it.
And yeah, everything looks gross and weird. But suddenly, Delia, Catherine O'Hara, is singing that Deo, Deo.
The Deetses get deoed. You've been deoed.
They sing the song, they all do a little dance, but they're doing it involuntarily.
And then prawn hands.
And that was just Adam and Barbara.
I was proud of them.
I was really proud of them. I'm really rooting for these two. That was a real good show.
That was the nice mix of fun and terrifying, you know? Honestly, this haunting here is what most ghost trains should be aiming for. And I feel a lot of them missed the mark.
Faunting. Faunting. Yeah?
I'm fawning over this faunting sound, let me tell you. Look, when we do our Ghost Train podcast, we're going to have to bring this up again, is all I'm saying.
Right.
But something I love as well is that, of course, the yuppies, far from being spooked and scared, are immediately
investment opportunity.
in love with this investment opportunity.
Yeah.
And Otho, who's like, he's introduced like the architect, but he also is like, oh, I used to be a chemist in the Bronx, and I used to be this. And he reveals he's also a former paranormal researcher. And I just love this guy. He's just like this very convenient, like as convenient to them as he is for the movie, that he is everything.
Just an expert on all things. But the guests don't believe that these are actual ghosts because they can't reproduce it. The ghosts don't want to.
They're shy now.
Yeah.
And you would be, though, if you'd failed to spook someone, like.
Yeah. But the Deetses, they make their way into the attic. Uh-oh, that's not where you want them. Adam and Babs, nowhere to be seen. Otho, interior designer, he nicks the handbook, doesn't he? He swipes it. Sneaky.
Now, this is a point in the movie where I think my notes and my shorthand has done me wrong, because I written down Beetlejuice as BJ, and there is a transformation here. And unfortunately, I've written down in massive capital letters, because it is scary, Big BJ Snake, which is... I'm not that guy, all right, is what I'm saying. I'm not the big BJ Snake guy, like, you know.
You've just been writing down my search history, Kevin. No,
I just thought we need a new Cinema Swirl T-shirt in the books, and big BJ Snake, right, you know.
Just scrawled in your handwriting, just on like a little white T-shirt. I reckon we'd sell two. You know what? I think that would be a worthwhile endeavor.
Do you want T-shirts? Because for a man who's got a lot of podcasts, I never actually know that or not. Do you want T-shirts? Do you?
Oh, audience, do you want some?
Audience, do you want some?
Yeah.
Do you? Let us know.
Yeah.
We've done some limited runs before.
But there's none available at the moment.
They're not available though because they were limited. But that's probably, those of you who have them, I bet you feel pretty fucking good about yourselves, huh?
Do you want some T-shirts?
Want some T-shirts?
No. No, not the BJ Snake one, necessarily.
That's not how I should have started this presentation. You're right. And look, Dragons, I'm just saying, do you want T-shirts? I'm sorry, no big BJ Snakes will be involved.
You have actually, in the proper definition of it there, buried the lead, because you led with big BJ Snake. What you actually wanted to say was, do you want some T-shirts?
Do you want some T-shirts?
So the dad of the Deets he wants to turn the house into this research centre / theme park. But yeah, the BJ Snake is here. Beetlejuice is a big snake to fuck him up.
This was impressive stop motion.
Very impressive stop motion. And still, even in big disgusting snake stop motion form, he's having a look up a skirt and he's still a pervert. No matter how he manifests himself.
Pervert snake, just like they had in the Garden of Eden. Can you imagine?
And he drops the dad from a pretty significant height. He scares Lydia, little Winona Ryder. He scares her. And Barbara of the Maitlands is very upset that he's done this. Beetlejuice, why? Why would you do it? You absolute bugger. Bugger juice, I call him. He's a right jerk.
He makes himself all spiky when he's in the little model village cussing him out. And because he can't pick him up. And there's so many little things that he does. Anytime Beetlejuice goes through his pockets, always makes me laugh. Like he's just, there's always something. And for such a strange costume and character design that he is, man, Michael Keaton is just like, he shouldn't be as believable as he is, you know? Like Beetlejuice has kind of got like big kind of silly panda marks around his eyes. Like his makeup is kind of shittily done, in fairness. Like, he's not like believable corpse or anything. He's very silly. But you just buy it that this is what this guy's meant to look like, because Michael Keaton,
he sells it.
He sells it. And you know what? They kind of hold him back a little bit, I would almost say. Like, he's not in every scene. he's there just enough to own the movie, but they give you less. He's almost like the Terminator, Sam, I was going to say, like, you know?
He's the Terminator of Beetlejuice. There's not as much Beetlejuice in Beetlejuice as you would expect.
Yeah.
Scant. No, we're not scant. Slight. No, there's enough, but he's not in it a lot. He's in it quite a bit.
He's kind of a consistent kind of threat of a presence. You don't find yourself going, where is he at this point in time? You always know kind of that he's there at any moment in time. I was impressed at the restraint of the use of the titular character, let's just say. I love one of my favourite little lines.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about this, is all this like big bombastic action. And then there are all these like little fucking gems dropped in. Like Beetlejuice is distracted in the model village because there is this little mini titty bar that has been set up for him. And he's like, hey, baby. And he walks over there. And Babs just turns straight around and goes, Adam, why did you build that?
And he's like, I didn't.
You thought his little model village, it was just like a nice hobby. Turns out he's making sexy miniature houses full of little nude ladies.
They get sucked into the death bureaucracy office again with Juno, who is furious that they've enlisted Beetlejuice. There wasn't much to this other than like, why have you, this is a bad thing that you've done. There's an American football team behind me who died in a crash.
But she's trying to tell them, like, you can do it yourself. You know? She's trying to, like, there's no need for you to have ordered that in now. You could have done it yourself. Yeah. And she's like, come on, show me your tricks that you can do now. And they both manage to turn themselves into ghoulish versions of the main characters from Spy vs. Spy.
I don't know Spy vs. Spy. Is that a...
We got pointy faces, Sam.
It's very good, their elastic face stuff. It's very impressive, you know, and it's quite cute how talented they are at doing this. And she's impressed. She's like, well done, you know, not bad.
Still a bit scary though, isn't it? Like, it's a bit horrible, you know.
It's horrible with all the kind of like stretchy eyes and eyes everywhere.
Eyes. If you had an eye thing, it wouldn't be for you now, you know.
No.
And I don't know about you, Sam, but the scene of Lydia writing her suicide note is probably the funniest suicide note writing scene I've ever seen in a movie. Not that there's much competition. The fact they managed to make me chuckle and not feel weird was impressive, with her constantly scribbling out and putting in better, more impactful words. Like, instead of saying, I'm going to jump off the bridge, I have plummeted to my death.
Yeah.
And she's like, I am alone. She scratched out, I am utterly alone in capital letters instead. Fabulous.
Because she wants to hang out with her dead mates and she wants to be dead like them. And it's almost an aspirational thing.
And in fairness to them, that is probably the most morbid the movie gets, is that there's this little girl who wants to kill herself, and they actually handle it pretty damn well. For 1988, and we're mainly having yucks and japes here, they're quite sensitive about it in some respects. I didn't expect that.
It's not too bad. Big boss guy, big old investor man is coming down from New York tonight. You got to convince him that they've got a marketable ghost house and they can sell it and make a big profit out of the ghost situation, right?
Look, Robert Gay doesn't get out of bed unless it's a 5-tier level scare, right? You know, he is nuts about haunted houses and ghost trains, and you won't leave New York for anything less than that. That's simple.
So he's coming down. Meanwhile, upstairs in the attic, Lydia, Winona, she's chatting to Beetlejuice, and he's been like, hey, come down here. Say my name.
You forget at moments, like, you know, because it's this real jagged mix of something where someone's going to watch this and go, let's make a kid's cartoon out of it. And you can kind of see it at points. And then there's bits where it's like, she's telling Beetlejuice, look, I want to be dead. And he's like, well, you know, maybe you say my name a few times and maybe we could talk about killing you and all that. And then like, at one point, he literally says, fuck you, say it. And like, there's just like an extra layer of what, like the fact that Beetlejuice can drop an F-bomb kind of just adds that extra layer of unhingedness to it. It's almost like he's not meant to say it. This Michael Keaton said it in a take.
He's
like,
naughty.
He says, fuck you, say my name.
Hey, place your rates on. Let's try and get to say the name. Her guessing the name. Some funny, like, beetle breakfast, beetle drink. I mean,
Beetle Orange.
Beetle Orange, Orange Beetle. But Adam and Babs arrived just in time to stop her from saying juice. Beetlejuice. They're making a point, Adam and Barbara, the Maitlands, that they would live together in harmony with the family if they don't have to do little tricks, you know, they don't have to be like actual spooky ghosts.
Yeah, like have to work for their keep, basically. Like,
Yeah.
let's do our thing, and
That's their
we'll let you
position
do
on
our
it.
thing. They're compromising, and they also explain as well to Lydia that like you don't want to die. Like you honestly, it's
Oh, no.
you might think that's what you want right now, but honestly, it's not. And they get through to her, and it's very sweet. This kind of they don't hammer it home over the head where they're like, we want you to be our daughter. You know, they don't do that.
No,
They're
it's
not
just
like
they're supportive of her. And
they're
they like her.
supportive of her, you know, and it's actually kind of nice that they managed to tell a story like this about someone finding, you know, parental figures or whatever without also being like, oh, and we should kill her parents or get rid of her parents. You know, the idea is put in here early-ish enough that maybe two sets of parents can live, one dead and one living, with this girl, and it'll be fine.
Oh, how very modern.
It takes a village.
Charles is doing his big pitch for the Ghost Amusement Park, and Otho, interior design guy, he's been studying the handbook, and he's got Adam and Babs' wedding outfits. I think that's the technical term, isn't it?
So do you know what happens here? Because they don't really explicitly state it, but like I'm not sure if you got what was going on here with the whole seance.
I had a glance at the Wikipedia page afterwards. This was a botched seance. He's reading the wrong thing.
So is he accidentally exercising them? Is that
Accidentally exercising them.
So they're going to become lost souls.
He brings them back, but as he's doing it, they're rapidly getting old and decomposing, and it's gross. They're kind of...
It's genuine. It's probably the most upsetting thing in the movie, I think. Made
pretty
me sad.
harrowing. You know?
Made me sad.
They're sort of dying, but already dead. It's, really gross. And so Lydia, Winona Ryder, she goes to Beetlejuice for help. Who are you going to call? Beetlejuice.
Captain BJ. Beetlejuice.
He can't stop himself from offering to help with a kind of pervert's caveat. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And look, guys, you might find yourself in a situation, which happened to us before. Way back, we talked about this. We were given a contract to potentially sign up with a big podcasting group, and we had to read the small print. The first thing we thumbed to was the pervert's caveats, and we didn't like what we saw.
No, and so he's saying, "We'll help you. Would you marry me? We'll get married." How old is she supposed to be here, please? Because don't like this Beetle man saying he's going to marry a child.
Pretty sure she's only meant to be like a teenager, like 14 or 15. That's what I thought. I don't know how old Winona Ryder was, but
I
certainly
think that's what's supposed to be going on.
I could generously describe this as a shotgun wedding scenario.
Yes. But he's got his famous suit on. He's got his stripy black and white, which he's not really worn until this point.
Yeah.
This is the debut of it. It's not, that suit's not even on screen for that long.
No, but it's on the film poster, so there you go.
Yeah.
And it's what he wore in the cartoon as well, so I think that's kind of... Yeah, I love this bit though when he does this is the proper fucking unhinged haunting, where he's got a weird carousel hat and very long arms. Like a horrible Mr. Tickle. Sorry, an even more horrible Mr. Tickle.
Creating one of those like carnival test of strength machines and bopping the two guests out of the building with it by turning his arms into hammers, his army hammers.
Sam, it's Spookterin 101 is what this is.
Yeah. Otho gets scared off because he, through spooky powers, strips him of his suit to reveal another suit underneath. Is that what we're getting from this? Has he got like an underwear suit?
I thought my theory was that it was because it was dreadfully unfashionable or something like that.
Oh,
that's
okay,
why,
right,
he didn't like it. I did like that he poltergeisted the fuck out of the horrible art from Mrs. Deeds and turning into all because they always look so minging and so crap and fucking shit and angular, all creepily crawling around, very janky. And it's time for the wedding, and he brings out this little terrible alien ghoul.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think technically like his job has been done because the Maitlands are sort of free, but they're still all fucked up and old looking from this exorcism. But he's like, it's wedding time. We're going to get married now. It's an absolute fucking cartoon calamity fest, this wedding scene.
Because everyone keeps trying to say his name as well, so he keeps trying to stop people from saying his name and all that. You know, oh my goodness. It's an intense few moments. And what happens is Barbara manages to escape into the afterlife.
Yeah.
And she comes back with the one thing that Beetlejuice is terrified of. She fucking rides the worm, Sam.
She got to ride the worm. Rides the worm to get rid of Beetlejuice. It fucking
Ride the
works.
worm, eat the BJ. You know, it's... These are not... No.
Get it on a t-shirt. Ride the worm, eat the BJ.
Those are all t-shirts that Beetlejuice would wear. He'd have all Captain BJ and Eat the BJ, all that stuff, you know, ride the worm.
The worm, eat the BJ.
Repeat.
And so, hey, Beetlejuice is out of here, and that's kind of the end of that bit, you know?
Cut back to a very happy modern family.
Yes.
Who are doing fun hauntings to reward Lydia for doing well at school, where she seems all well adjusted. She's getting on well with school and all that.
Yeah.
And the Dietzes are also very happy as well. It seems that it's provided an artistic inspiration of sort for Catherine O'Hara's character. So she's like, you see, like in the background, she's got like a book published and all that. Everyone's happy. And the one person who's not happy is Beetlejuice, who is doomed to wait forever in a shitty waiting room with a tiny head.
Ah, that'll show him. You know what? It's nice that the Dietzes, the parents, are still all right at the end of this. Even though they're kind of sort of seen as villainous. They haven't really done that much wrong.
No, they didn't deserve to like lose their daughter or be killed or anything like that. If anything, it's kind of the least Tim Burton thing about the movie is that it ends on such a fucking happy note. And I think the ending is so happy and so
they're
like
dancing and singing at the end.
And because what happens to Beetlejuice is so silly, he has a little head. It kind of gives it just this like, that's the end of that caper.
Oh, this could be a new look for me. I mean, come on. He likes it.
But like, what I'm sure there are people who would have left that because it's not so like super final finality, it's all over, the end. It does leave the door open for a sequel. But I think, in fact, that there isn't a sequel is kind of done it a great service.
Yeah.
It is a perfect little tale without needing to go Hawaiian or any of the other proposed sequel ideas for it.
I don't know what more you could do with Beetlejuice. I'm sure you could do more stuff with the character.
You could go Hawaiian.
There's things like, you know, we didn't see that much of Beetlejuice. We don't know that much.
Beetlejuice, come on!
We don't know that much of his origin. We don't know that much of the kind of bureaucracy afterlife stuff. We could explore all those things. No, that's the thing. Like, I guess that's what a sequel would do. It would kind of pad that stuff out a bit more, or bring in a new family
even with
to be haunted
Ghostbusters, it's straight away it's diminishing returns, even though it has something that feels like, oh yeah, you could do more of this. Like, you feel that at the end of Ghostbusters 1, you feel it at the end of Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
One decided to make more and more and more and more, and one decided to, well, didn't decide to, they tried to make more, but for whatever reason, it never happened. But it's for the best.
Yeah.
It is, in the nicest possible way, quite small in scope. And I think it makes it more perfect than it would have seemed if it had a load of sequels and other gubbins hanging on to it.
Absolutely. I had a really good time with that. I really enjoyed it.
Were you laughing much during it? Like, because I felt like I laughed loads.
Yeah. It's really funny. It's not a scary film. And I know it's Spooky Swirl, but it's Halloweeny. It's Halloweeny.
Spooky though. That's it, right? I get sometimes that people want horror comedy and all that, and I find myself very often those two things. Like, I've enjoyed and loved a lot of horror comedies and stuff like that, but I kind of like this where it's just, let's just take some of the imagery and the kind of the themes of scarier stuff, but present it as more of a sci-fi comedy romp. Fucking love it.
It was really fun. The music, the Danny Elfman music we haven't really touched on at all, is great. Jaunty as fuck.
Good.
Perfectly suited to this. The set design's wonderful. The costuming in this, all throughout of it. Beetlejuice's stuff, great, obviously.
They spent like $1 million on the effects, which is like not a lot of money. That's crazy. It looks so good still.
Yeah. Some of the deliberate jankiness works absolutely perfectly. It has its own somewhat timeless vibe and aesthetic.
But like, how much better has this aged than, once again to mention, Sweeney Todd, which came out probably 20 years after the fact, but because of its reliance on CG, and there's still some stop motion, but it's more CG, it looks fucking awful compared to this.
Yeah. This has got the kind of the campiness and theatricalness.
Yes.
That we really enjoyed on Cinema Swill with Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Which I suppose, you know, Tim Burton had his fun with Batman as well. Yeah, campy, great costuming, great music, great performances from everyone, really.
Yeah,
I don't think there were any duds in there.
But it does say a lot that Michael Keaton still manages to steal the show. Like, I genuinely think he's one of my favourite actors thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so fucking good, you know?
He's great. There's not as much Beetlejuice as you'd expect, but that's fine. I think
less is more.
Exactly. I'm struggling to find anything negative I can think to say about this film. Yeah, I had a really good time. It breezed by. It doesn't outstay its welcome.
90, thereabouts, yeah.
That's what you want. And I can see why this is kind of iconic. It's a kind of Halloween thing.
But are you surprised that it's not like more... I know it's iconic, but
Yeah.
the fact that it doesn't seem to occupy much real estate in the old zeitgeist these days compared to other, classic 80s offerings or even other Tim Burton stuff.
Yeah.
Is that strange to you at all?
Maybe it's in a kind of difficult zone between being... It's not actually a horror film, and it's maybe not held up in this... but because it's got horror elements, it's not held up in the same lofty heights as some of those 80s and 90s kind of comedies. I think it's definitely got a cult status and people love it, but hey, it deserves every bit of love it gets and probably more than it gets, because that was a lot of fun. That was just fun.
Would you want to see another one? Like, say they came out and they go, there's going to be Beetlejuice 2. We're going to have Keaton's back in the saddle.
Well, my policy of like remake, do sequels to everything, fuck it, who cares?
Yeah.
I'd absolutely watch it and see what they do with it. It would be very interesting seeing Michael Keaton now doing that. I think he could pull it off.
I think so, yeah.
But it would be different.
Yeah, I think it'd be like the Bill and Ted thing again. You probably could make the best sequel, because I think third Bill and Ted movie was the best sequel you could have possibly made under the circumstances.
Yes.
And I don't think I'll ever watch it again. And like, I had a good time with it, but I kind of feel like Beetlejuice 2 would be kind of destined for the same thing, that there are circumstances working against it, and I think there's just a little bit of magic here that couldn't be replicated in 2021 or beyond. It just feels like there's something about when this was made and how this was made. I just don't like. I wouldn't trust Tim Burton with it anymore. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. And
I think he's moved on from that kind of aesthetic and that kind of mindset, even of how you should make a movie.
And look, I know we love practical effects, and there is some CGI. There's quite a lot of CGI in this. But if you treated this now with modern effects and stuff, I think that might end up missing the point or ruining the look of it. I think it's captured something that is both kind of its time and also timeless. And I don't think there needs to be more to it. But the film itself, great.
I don't think you've had anything bad to say about it.
No, I haven't.
You've been full of praise. So I will ask you the ultimate question. Sam, your spooky star wipe rating for Beetlejuice.
I really liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I had a really good time.
Are you shocked at how much you enjoyed it?
A little bit surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
But pleasantly so. Look, I've been dicking around with half measures for the last few episodes. And listeners, I'm doing it again. 4.5 star wipes.
You heard it here first.
Oh, thanks for listening to another episode of Cinema Swirl. This episode was produced by Kevin, edited by me, Sam, and I also did the music. If you want to support the show, then patreon.com/Cinema Swirl is the way to go. If you want to follow us on the socials, we're at Cinema Swirl on Twitter and facebook.com/Cinema Swirl on Facebook, which is where our votes for episodes take place. If you've got questions, queries, comments, or anything else for the mailbag, then send it on over to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Please do keep recommending the show to your friends if you think they'll like it, or even if you don't think they'll like it, just recommend it anyway. Oh, and if there are any bits in recent episodes that you think would make particularly nice video clips, the kind of thing we've had on our socials recently, then send us a tweet and let us know. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers, bye.